7, and I will call a Sewage and Water Board audit meeting to order. Special counsel, please read the roll and certify favor quorum.
Director Scholas,
Present.
Director Duplessis, Director Barnes. Here. Director Markowitz, Director Antrim.
Here.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay. Now we proceed with our presentation items. The Audit Department fourth quarter update. Ed Sutherland, you're up.
Thank you so much. We'll start with the staffing, and specifically we'll start with the good news. Still have our audit senior, he's John Quell Jones. I hired him away from Gray and the GL team back in last May. He's doing great. And we also have a new hire starting next Monday for a staff internal auditor. His name is Matthew Carlin. He comes to us from, he moved from Harris County, Texas, where he worked for the city over there, and he also had prior work history at the LLA in Louisiana. So I'm excited about having him on. Like I said, he's starting a week from yesterday. And now for the not so good news, unfortunately our audit supervisor vacated her position last month, just before her probationary period was over. So that is now open. We are now hiring for that position. There's a minimum 5 years requirement required for that position for any valid candidates. So if you know anyone, please let me know. And we also have 2 vacancies open for audit assistant. Those are both open to new college grads. I'll probably make one a staff internal auditor, the difference being the auditor assistant is required to have an accounting degree, and the staff internal auditor does not. So it will help give us some diversity in the group, as well as open it up to a variety of candidates. And just some staffing notes. We're working with civil service to review and revise the exam for the auditor series. We did have 2 candidates that we liked for auditor assistant, and they both unfortunately weren't able to come up with a test exam that was high enough to be considered a candidate. So I'll commend civil service for taking notice, and we're going to look at the actual test and go through it. Gray is going to look through it as well, I believe, and see if the exam needs some revision. They are also going to relax some of the accounting qualifications for auditor and auditor assistant. Right now, if you don't have a 4-year accounting degree, you can have 24 hours of accounting. They're going to relax that for us and make it 15 hours of accounting and 9 hours of a different business discipline if you have that. So you can have econ and management and then throw in there as well. And we can consider that a candidate as well. Just some things they're trying to help us with because it has been very trying. But the domicile requirement remains our #1 impediment to getting new candidates here. The big thing this quarter was the risk assessment. Our risk assessment questionnaire was drafted by me and distributed to our departmental managers. It's 32 questions covering 7 areas of audit risk. #1 being the timing and the results of previous reviews. That's anything conducted from either the LLA, the IG's office, or any federal regulators we've had. Operations, that's changes to policies and procedures, any drastic changes in departmental staffing or size. Financial activity, that's going to be things like the volume of financial transactions, as well as the value of financial transactions, as well as any grant activity we receive from federal or otherwise. The internal control environment, that's going to be things like separation of duties, let's say custody of cash, custody of confidential data, updated policies and procedures, those types of things. Training and experience is exactly what it looks like. That's the level of staffing turnover and tenure within the department, whether that's individual staff or management. Contracting, that's the extent to which we employ contractors to perform functions within the operational units. Obviously, if you have a high level of contractors, your risk level would go up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you don't outsource any internal controls to those contractors, right? And the last one being factors contribute to AFWA. AFWA stands for anti-fraud, waste, and abuse. So if there's any fraud that's been reported within that department in the past couple of years, we want to know about it, and that would spike up that area of risk. So yeah, that's our #1 piece. It's I put some time and effort into getting something that I thought would be exhaustive to the different areas within the organization that would show our areas of risk, while making something that's not too onerous for the managers to actually fill out and complete. It's 32 questions, all are multiple choice, and of course they know my door is open if we want to have a conversation instead of, on top of the questionnaire. Everyone still has to do the questionnaire. From here, what we'll do is I'll meet with each member of the leadership team and get their thoughts on where they think their number one risks are, as well as other stakeholders outside. I met with the IG's investigations team last month to get their take. If anyone on the board or specifically this committee has any special requests for where they think higher areas of risk are, we certainly want to hear that and that feedback. I'll compile all of this information into risk assessment results, and I'll generate a proposed audit plan. From that proposed audit plan, we will vote and approve the audit plan for 24 at Q1. Hopefully we can get that done in January, but if not, we have work to do until that point, I promise. I'll get to that in the next slide. So, sure.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Is communications, could that be considered a high area of risk?
Well, I'm gonna have a conversation with Grace. She's on the leadership team, so whatever she thinks are areas that we should focus on, that will be taken into account as well.
And I just want to raise, you know, the recent flooding and how the communications breakdown, some of which was totally outside of our control, which is actually a real risk to us, and I don't know how that is assessed, you know, because it's sort of outside of the Sewage and Water Board, but it's something that we rely on. And so I don't know how that all fits together, but I would just say that seems like a very important area.
Sure. Anything that's a process can be reviewed and audited, I promise. So we'll definitely take it into consideration as far as the risk assessment goes for next year.
Maybe a conversation with our emergency management folks and NOSAP and improving that line of communication, and then bringing the GSO office to that communication. Obviously, that's very key. And then you add our communications department to that, and I think there's room for improvement.
There's a lot of process.
Yeah, we can't control everything they do, but we can at least make it clear what they may communicate on our behalf, or help them make more educated decisions. So, yeah.
So this is our audit activity ongoing. The billing and collections audit, I really, really wanted to be able to have that report issued and to be able to give those results at this meeting, but unfortunately with our audit supervisor having an untimely departure, weren't quite able to get it done, but it will be issued before end of year 2023. John Quell and I will work diligently to get it finished and pushed out by the end of this year, and those results will be given at Q1 of next year. Just to let you know, we did a quick parking efficiency review. It was a consulting review just to assess the usage and efficiency of our parking facilities downtown here. We have a contract with the Howard Avenue Garage as well as the K&B building. So there was some concern that some people weren't either using it, or perhaps we could consolidate them. So we did that quick review. We're allowed to do, I say allowed, but you know, I'd say designed to do consulting reviews here and there as outlined in the audit committee charter. Our next review will be safety. Initial planning's already done. We're going to meet with management. That's going to be Chad Fava, our safety manager, as well as Jason Higginbotham, to talk about our purview and scoping. I do know that we won't try to do the entire organization safety-wise in this review. How we'll do it, maybe we'll do inside versus outside, meaning safety within the plants first, and then maybe the networks first, the networks folks afterward, or perhaps even, you know, proactive versus reactive. But I'm open to ideas on that as well.
So this is an area I've been talking about for a little while. I think that the most useful thing would be to look at our largest risk areas. So start with areas where our employees are at largest risk for bad outcomes and work backwards to least problematic areas if we're going to have to stage them. Secondly, I think that we should not just look at occurrences but near misses as well. And there should be some leading indicators to understand what areas are consistently doing things that put them at the best possible safety situation as a model system versus other areas that are always near missing. And maybe they didn't have anything happen by grace and by God. But I think that if we have to scale it, that should be great. And I'm sure the special counsel's office has a list of which employee groups tend to be most at risk from an injury standpoint, I think those are just high risks that we need to mitigate that immediately.
Okay.
Also risk management, because they encompass workers' comp. So yes, so we could work with risk management to make sure.
Because I can think of what I believe that list looks like based on what has come before the board, but my opinion isn't necessarily what the actual data is.
Yeah, as soon as we get the billing collections audit, we will jump feet first into safety. But thank you for the feedback, appreciate it. And lastly, what I have is CATS, ACL. CATS stands for Computer Assisted Auditing Techniques. And the number one software provider in this realm is ACL. ACL stands for Audit Command Language. We decided to go ahead and purchase 3 licenses for the organization. I will personally train whoever is the custodian of those licenses within the operations. What ACL does is, it's basically Excel kind of on steroids. It lets us take on large volumes of data and identify anomalies within that data that we can look at specifically. I know within the GSO, one of their first intents for this tool is going to be our GPS data. And are we making the correct stops? Are they making the correct stops at the right period of time to do the work that needs to be done? Those types of things. So I'm excited that we're actually going to make this purchase. And like I said, I'll train at least one person in GSO and perhaps customer service after that. And then the third tool will sit with internal audit to do our work. So that's really what I have for this quarter. I will let everyone know as soon as we get the billing collections audit out, as well as the results of the risk assessment, so I can start getting an audit plan together for your approval.
Can I go back to the positions?
Sure.
'Cause you mentioned some of the qualifications. What you said some might be staff internal auditor because it doesn't require accounting. So what does it require?
Right. So there's a fiscal auditor series. Let's see. Excuse me. There's a fiscal auditor series, and New Orleans Civil Service stepped up a few years back and actually made an internal audit series.
Okay.
Just recognizing that, yeah, process-based auditor doesn't have to be an accountant, and vice versa. So yes, the auditor assistant, that has to have a 4-year college degree, but no experience. So I thought it was great that we had that out there. It is a little more of a requirement to have the accounting degree, but I can go to the universities, and I have the 8 in the area, and get new college grads on that. The internal auditor, you do not have to have a specific degree. You do have to have a 4-year degree, but you need at least 1 year of experience. That's kind of the trade-off.
In auditing.
In auditing,
Mhm.
or a related
Yeah,
function.
Yeah. And what in the
If you
auditor
do
assistant?
if they're pretty liberal with it, by the way. If you do compliance,
Okay.
or if you do like process-based auditing, they'll accept that. So yeah,
And then the auditor assistant, what type of degree? You
that's
said
a 4-year accounting degree.
accounting.
Yeah. So our staff internal auditor coming in, Matthew, he doesn't have an accounting degree. He's worked in compliance. I believe his undergrad degree is in classics, so he's really good at writing reports, which would be fantastic. So, I mean, on the spectrum of things, I can teach you about auditing. I'd rather teach you about auditing than writing. It's hard.
Absolutely.
It's hard to teach adults at a certain age to write audit reports and those kinds of things. And I could teach them about the organization, right? So, like I said, we'll probably move one auditor assistant to staff internal auditor, just to be able to open up to more candidates.
So the senior audit, the audit supervisor is your second in command, and then the audit senior would be working with and under them?
Correct. So the senior, it's a little more, you need 3 years of experience to be a senior.
Mhm.
And that is an accounting-based one as well. John Quell has an accounting degree from Southeastern. He moved over from our general ledger team when I came into place. He just wanted to change the pace. He's doing great so far.
Do you know offhand the pay scale for the audit supervisor, the range?
The supervisor is $70,000 to $79,000 per annum. Right.
I think it would be helpful for these key hires, like when we're really looking for people to fill these types of things, if there were some way to, like for the board to know what are the qualifications and what are the salaries, as like just an FYI, maybe it's an email so that we can potentially put those out to our networks and see if there's anyone we know
Yeah.
that might
Sure.
qualify.
I feel, I can think of 2 board members. Tyler makes an excellent point that probably have somebody.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm asking these questions is, and maybe you can follow up with an email to us, just listing of what you're looking for, what are the minimum qualifications and what are the salary range so that we can,
And the links that, so we can,
right, yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
put them on LinkedIn. Or,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, we've had some traction with things like LinkedIn, Indeed. You know, they ultimately have to go through civil service, but we start there, and yeah, we hit the wall on the domicile requirement sometimes. But you know, Matthew already lives here, so that's a good thing. But anyway, yeah, I'll absolutely follow up with that information. I promise.
All right. Any other questions? All right, any public comment?
No public comment.
All right, seeing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.